Welcome to the Cryptonomatron, and today I'm doing an ICO review on the Acorn Collective. Now, what is the Acorn Collective? Well, they intend to make crowdfunding free. That's right, you heard me. They want to promote a social enterprise by providing free crowdfunding for any legal project in any country around the world. Now, how are they going to do this? Let's watch the review and find out all about Acorn Collective. So starting off with the competition, the two that spring to everybody's mind will be Kickstarter and Indiegogo. They are both crowdfunding websites, and as you can see here, Kickstarter have funded over 130,000 different projects. They have 3,686 live projects at the moment with over 14 million backers. Yeah, they are pretty much the leader in terms of crowdfunding on the internet. But they are a centralized business and they do need to make profit, so they charge fees. And that's where they are at a disadvantage against Acorn Collective. Indiegogo announced recently that they were going to start allowing ICOs on their website as a form of crowdfunding, rather than the usual traditional method of supplying a product and people that like the product or people like the concept pledge money in. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on with that. So aside from the big players, there are some decentralized crowdfunding websites on the blockchain. I found a couple of them with a quick Google. I'm sure there are many, many more. You can post them below in the comments if you know of any or you're even invested in any. And one of them I found was this Wayfund. Wayfund is open source crowdfunding. They're in alpha stage at the moment, so they've not launched yet, but it looks quite interesting. Much the same general purpose as Acorn Collective, in that they are an open platform for crowdfunding campaigns, and you can launch the campaign using one of their contract templates. Another one that I found was this Bloomio, investing in startups. It seems to be more focused about actually investing in some of the platforms, but they are a crowdfunding platform, so if you're a startup you can use them as well. So as I hinted at earlier, blockchain will evolve crowdfunding, as this article says, and disrupt the traditional method of raising capital by venture capital. The reason for this is numerous. Obviously it's a lot easier to run an ICO. There's not so much legal red tape. Plus it gives everybody a chance to contribute as well. The traditional methods of raising money are prohibitive, they're costly, there's lots of issues that go along with it. Some countries won't allow you to invest in anything unless you're an accredited advisor or accredited investor, sorry. So there's a lot of different reasons as to why ICOs are getting so popular nowadays, and not only because of the new technology that's behind most of them, but also because of the ease of actually getting involved. And I think that's one of the areas where the competition will struggle to keep up. So let's have a look at the problems Acorn Collective want to solve. Now, first of all, the main one is a lack of proper funding is holding back innovation. Now, this is a general problem. Obviously, if innovative companies cannot crowdfund or cannot receive funding for their projects, then it's going to hold back the innovation and their ability to create products, provide jobs, and move forward. Number two, crowdfunding platforms are rejecting a vast majority of projects. They only pick ones that are suitable for profit generation. So if your project doesn't fit their narrow criteria, it's likely that you won't get selected. Number three, protectionism. Again, it goes hand in hand with rejecting projects. Their protection, they protect their partners, they protect their stakeholders, they protect their own interests first and foremost. And again, that is holding back innovation as well. Number four, a big problem that Acorn Collective want to focus on is there is no access to crowdfunding for emerging markets, especially in underdeveloped or developing countries. They simply are not allowed to use the bigger platforms. Many countries are excluded. So there's big potential there, and Acorn Collective have recognized that. There are high fees on traditional platforms, anything between 5 to 20% and even more, just to get your crowdfunding off the ground. Number 6, platforms impose restrictions. They make up the rules as they go along. They can arbitrarily shut you down. Again, it's very difficult to comply with everything they want you to do. Another complaint was there was little or no platform support. So once you actually engaged in your crowdfunding program with these big platforms, you got no support or no assistance because they're so big. You're basically talking to nobody. So how are they going to solve these problems that we've discussed? Well, they are promoting social enterprise by providing free crowdfunding for any legal project in any country. They believe it's a huge and growing market in the West alone and completely untapped in developing countries, which makes this project quite important. A growing pipeline of early projects and international incubator partners. So they already have some in the pipeline. They will accept any legal projects from any country, and they're going to do it for free, and that's quite important as well. They're going to focus on a wide adoption and easy access to maximize adoption of the token, and blockchain transactions will all but eradicate payment fees, they believe, which are typically 3 to 5% on the other platforms, and also using an ICO to scale and revenue generation mechanisms to sustain the operations. They can make crowdfunding free. So typical platforms usually charge 5%, but by running this ICO and then the revenue generation, they are going to be able to do it for nothing. So how are they going to achieve this? Well, they're going to have their own crowdfunding hub. So if you are wanting to crowdfund your project, providing it's legal, you can use the Oak platform. They will have a secondary marketplace to sell your goods and services after you've crowdfunded your business, again using the Oak token. The point of sale payments will be provided on an app, which will again use the Oak token. And campaign services for projects on the platforms will be paid for in Oak. So as I mentioned, they have a growing pipeline of ventures waiting to list on the platform. Another advantage they have is the ex-chief technical officer of Crowdcube, which is the world's largest equity crowdfunding platform, is on the board now. UCL Blockchain Group research fellows are also on their board, and they are cooperating with numerous startup organizations in both developed but also emerging and less economically developed countries to bring crowdfunding into their networks. So their competitive advantages, they have attractive tokenomics. The Oak token, is fixed supply, obviously. It will be used for all transactions in the crowdfunding hub, post-campaign marketplace, support services, point of sales, payments app, etc. They will have immediate liquidity with their Bancor partnership. They have revenue generation mechanisms to ensure that profits keep the platform sustainable, but also free to the end user. And they want token growth and stability mechanisms so they can ensure substantial early token demand by generously incentivizing early adoption using the Project Incentive Fund and other mechanisms. Now, they are incorporated in Gibraltar, where a lot of these ICO and crowdfunding companies are starting. They are going to require KYC and AML checks on all participants in the ICO to ensure access to full banking services. So the market for crowdfunding is pretty big, as you can imagine. The white paper refers to Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Obviously, they're the two biggest ones on the internet, and over $3.2 billion has been channeled through Kickstarter to fund, as I mentioned earlier, 130,000 plus projects. They have 3,500 projects running on their site. Indiegogo, by comparison, has raised more than $1 billion in funding for projects. So the market here is absolutely massive. Now, what if I was to tell you you could do it for free, rather than have to pay 20% or whatever it is to these centralized companies? Yep, that's right. That's what Acorn Collective are intending to do. And thus, we can't deny this could be very, very disruptive to the crowdfunding industry if they can implement and if they get adopted. But, you know, it's a growing industry. Crowdfunding, they say, is here to stay. Another excerpt from the white paper here. The impact of crowdfunding on global finance and entrepreneurship is undeniable. In 2015, the total global crowdfunding volume was estimated to be $34 billion. And, you know, the potential for it from a World Bank paper they cite here, crowdfunding's potential for the developing world, which Acorn Collective are going to focus on, predicts crowdfunding to reach 90 to 96 billion per year by 2025. So the market is definitely there. They've already identified that it's big in the West at the moment, but really hasn't reached the underdeveloped or developing world yet in terms of popularity. So it eventually will, as all trends do over time, then get adopted in developing countries. So they're ideally positioned to take advantage of that target market. So their market is focused on the developing world, less economically developed countries, they put it, because they believe that that's an untapped market at the moment, and they're already showing active engagement with NGOs and the World Bank, etc. So they don't want to have a different system for emerging economies, but they want to allow universal access for everybody, whether in the West, whether in underdeveloped countries or developing countries, wherever you are, you'll be able to have the same access to the services from Acorn Collective. So they're going to use the Ethereum blockchain. They are running an ICO and using blockchain so that they can offer their services for free, and they don't have to charge the 5% platform fee that the other crowdfunding websites charge. And then they're going to move on to implement their revenue generation mechanism, which we'll take a look at in a minute. So this is the Acorn ecosystem. As you can see, it's in the white paper. You can take a good look at it. They have all the different components, the project incentive fund there, the project backer insurance, affiliate rewards, if you recruit people into the system. They have the founders, the backers, the Acorn Hub, and the Acorn Market, which will allow consumers to buy and purchase products, but also allow retailers that have had their businesses crowdfunded sell their products as well. And obviously they will have the revenue generation mechanism to keep everything going. So it's a very interesting system. In the tech section, we'll take a little closer look at the different components. So the Acorn Hub is the centerpiece of the platform, and it will be where your founders will access to crowdfund their businesses, and it will also be where the backers will log on to back any of the projects that they want to crowdfund. So the OAK token will be the token of the ecosystem, and it will act as the fuel, and it will be used for rewards. And also it will be used to fund the campaign. So if you are a backer, you will have the OAK tokens, and then you can choose to allocate them to a campaign that you deem worthy of backing. There is obviously a project approval criteria. They won't let any Tom, Dick and Harry onto this crowdfunding platform, so they have to scrutinize them. Illegal projects won't be considered, but those that are not so clear cut, they will be voted on, reviewed by an ethics board, and if the ethics board can't decide, they'll go to a community vote. So the marketplace will be the post-campaign retail platform for goods and services that have been successfully funded by crowdfunding on the hub, and this will allow the OAK token to be used for purchasing and as revenue for selling your products. So they will also accept innovative third-party products as well for a small commission, of course. So the aim is to build this marketplace to something actually valuable that people will use, and obviously this gives the token increased utility as well. Initially, they will allow payments in both fiat and the OAK tokens, so that they don't want to discourage people from using the system. So accepting fiat is quite important, as not everybody is savvy with cryptocurrency yet, and people may still prefer to use the old ways. And you know, they will have local platforms. So their strategy is to have local platforms in developing countries, again, not only allowing them to access the crowdfunding platform, but also to the marketplace. It's quite important that they focus on the regions that they come from. So onto the tech. Now, they do have a technical paper as well as a white paper and as well as a one-pager. So if you're technically minded or you want to know more about the project or you're thinking of investing, then I would recommend that you read it. It's fairly detailed in what they intend to do. We won't waste time with it in this review because it doesn't really make any difference to us, but we will have a look at some of the features that they want to implement by referring back to the white paper. So one of the ways that they're going to ensure the token is growing in value is that they're going to have revenue generation mechanisms within the ecosystem on the platform. And basically, they are going to be revenue raising from featuring certain projects. They're also going to offer campaign and business services as well, including legal assistance, marketing, sourcing and manufacturing, technical help such as web, mobile or blockchain application development, accounting and taxes, translations and other services. And these will be provided by a team of experts that will form partnerships with project founders for specific campaigns. They're also going to utilize an operations fund, so some of the ICO proceeds will go into this operations fund, and that will generate annual returns, and that's another way that they're going to raise revenue every year. They will also have a lot of valuable data on the platform, and they're going to use that to raise revenue as well. So here we can see the infographic from the white paper. As you can see, this outlines all the ways they're going to raise revenue. The initial ICO allocation, obviously, will cover initial operating costs. Then operations fund, which will be the investments that they're going to make with the money they've raised from the ICO, and that will give a yearly return they can put back into the business. They're going to have featured projects, so that will allow people to pay for more visibility, you know, more, I guess, features within, you know, on the website. So maybe they'll have a chance to raise a little bit more money or be a little bit more successful in their campaigns. They will also leverage platform data for income as well, and they will also have this support for services such as legal or blockchain technology, etc. So a lot of ways they're going to raise revenue to keep this ecosystem functioning and keep the business viable from the medium to long term. So tokenomics now. The token will be an ERC20 token called OAK, which is quite a nice name, I feel. Obviously, it's on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, it will be the main exchange mechanism, or the fuel, if you like, within the ecosystem. Backers will be able to fund projects using the OAK token. The Acorn marketplace will enable users to purchase goods and services using the OAK token. The Acorn local mobile payment app will allow point-of-sale transactions using the OAK token. And founders will be able to buy additional Acorn support services with the OAK tokens. The fixed supply will be a total of 90 million OAK. So the pre-sale is live at the moment. If you wish to participate, tokens are 70 cents currently. Their funding target or hard cap for the pre-sale is $5 million US, meaning 7 million OAK tokens. Now, the main ICO hard cap is US 50 million, with a stretch goal, if they achieve higher than that, of 100 million. The minimum funding threshold for the main ICO is a soft cap, if you like, is $5 million US. So the distribution will be as follows. 80% will be for public ICO contributors. That includes pre-sale and main sale. 16.66% will be given to the company under a time lock for up to 2 years, and 3.33% will be given to bounty and community awards. So that will mean a total of 83.33% of the tokens, if they all sell out, will go on to the exchanges after the crowd sale. So the exchange rate currently at pre-sale is 1 oak for 70 cents. It will then rise, it will in fact double to the main sale price of $1.40 per oak, and it's fixed to the US dollar, which is good because at the moment Ethereum is very volatile, as you can imagine. As I mentioned, pre-sale will have a 7 million oak hard cap. That's a 50% discount, obviously, over the ICO price. Main ICO soft cap will be 3.5 million oak. The target is 35 million. The main ICO hard cap will be at 65 million. The total public sale will be 72 million, and the max supply 90 million. Okay, if they don't reach their funding threshold, then the contributions will all be returned. And if they have a partial success, they will consider issuing a second tranche of oak tokens at a later stage. So they may in fact end up running another ICO later on, which isn't really that isn't really good for initial investors as well. It will devalue the initial it will devalue those holding on to the currency, I think. If they do attain their funding target, they won't mint any more tokens. And again, if they do reach their funding target of US 50 million, which is very high for a hard cap in my opinion, then the smart contract will disable new token generation. Team tokens are locked with a 1 to 2 year lockup period. Half will be released after a year, and the remaining half will be released after 2 years. So as I mentioned, they require $5 million minimum funding, and that will allow them to create a minimum viable product and validate their market and commercial strategies. Again, they say if only the minimum fundraising target is met, they will hold a second coin offering after the minimum viable product of the platform is built. So they do have a bounty campaign. Again, it's pretty straightforward. The reserve is 150,000 tokens, and that works out about 276,000 US dollars at the exchange rate of 1 ACO to $1.84. So they are split up as follows. The YouTube bounty is 30,000 ACO. The signature and avatar bounty is 30,000 ACO. The translation and community management campaign is 36,000 ACO. The Facebook bounty is 12,000 ACO. The Twitter bounty 12,000 ACO as well, and blog bounty 30,000 ACO. As usual, there are rules to follow. I will leave the link below in the description so you can go straight to it if you want to participate. And any questions should be directed to the ICO Reward Telegram group. You have to register with ICOreward.com to participate, and once you've done that, you can then receive your rewards, which are all based on how many stakes you have. Stakes are dependent on how many people you reach and how many posts you do, etc., etc. So good luck with that if you're going to participate. Let's look at the timeline. As I mentioned before, pre-sale is running at the moment, so if you want to join, you can get a 50% discount over the ICO price. So I suggest if you are interested in getting into this ICO that you do invest at pre-sale. It's far cheaper, and you can reserve your tokens as well. You never know how popular this ICO could be in March when the main sale kicks off. It could sell out very quickly. We're seeing a flurry of ICOs and a frenzy of people trying to get into them. especially like today when prices are tumbling with bad news stories affecting the markets. ICOs are a safe haven during these periods, really, because your money's locked up, the tokens are released, and then hopefully they grow when they hit the exchanges. So a lot of people trying to get into ICOs at the moment. There is a big frenzy going on, so it might be in your interest to invest now rather than later on, notwithstanding the large discount that you're going to get. But anyway, let's look at the timeline that they've got here. Q3, Q4 2017, the concept and team building began. The minimal viable product development began as well. They're working on it at the moment. Unfortunately, not released yet, which will count against them in the score, but I'm sure that it will come eventually. The white paper was published, the company was incorporated, and they did their regulatory and banking, which, another thing I must point out, you have to do KYC to participate in this ICO, because simply they have to do that for regulatory and banking purposes. So in January this year, the ICO pre-sale kicked off. We are running live at the moment. It will continue to the 19th of February. In March, the main ICO will happen, and then in Q2, Q3 2018, the release of the Acorn MVP will happen, and then they will implement token growth and stability mechanisms. Now, just as an aside to that as well, there is a very interesting way that they're going to try and improve the value of the token over time. I suggest you go and read it in the white paper. I didn't really have time to delve into it today, but they are very much focused on the investor getting some value for their contributions. There is a more detailed roadmap in the white paper, and as you can see here, around mid-2018, mid this year, the release of the Acorn minimum viable product will be completed. They will then implement currency growth and stability mechanisms, as I mentioned before, and that will utilize project incentive funds to drive early adoption of the platform, setting up affiliate rewards, and actively exploring for partnerships to integrate Oak into additional third-party platforms. In Q3, Q4 2018, they will launch the completed Acorn platform, so it's not too far away from an investor standpoint, and they will begin development of the Acorn Marketplace and Acorn Local, which again I mentioned before, they will have local sites for developing countries, so that it's more focused. They will proceed then with even larger scale utilization of Project Incentive Fund, and they will implement the Project Backer Insurance. Then 2019 and beyond, they will launch the Marketplace and the Acorn Local and continue running the currency growth and stability mechanisms to ensure maximum and sustainable growth of the Oak ecosystem. So quite a concise roadmap there, and not too long before we start to see things happening, which is good. It does count against them. They don't have a current demo or MVP, but however, it does look like they are serious about getting it implemented as soon as possible, which is good news. So looking quickly at the team now, the team is quite extensive. As you can see here, there are 13 people in the team proper. Then they have quite a large advisory body as well. A lot of blockchain advisors there, a couple of ICO advisors, cybersecurity advisor, creative advisor, business development, a music industry advisor, and a UX advisor down at the bottom. So the team is quite large. Let's take a little look at them. I believe we have a father and son team here, perhaps. They do share the same second name, so I presume that's what they are. Let's have a look. So Dr. Moritz Kurtz is the co-founder. He's also the CEO. He is a practicing doctor, or was, in anesthesia, I think, intensive care and emergency medicine. So this isn't really his field. However, he has launched web businesses and run successful digital marketing campaigns for over a decade. So he's the man at the top, and his relation is a corporate finance specialist with over 40 years working for top European banks in Frankfurt, New York, London, and Hong Kong. And he is expertise is with some of the world's best known brands. He understands financial risk management and analysis, and brings his unique insights to SMEs. I think this team is fairly strong. If you go to their LinkedIn pages, you can see who they've worked for before. There's some impressive names in there. And again, they seem to have a good mix of people. That is they have guys that are focused on building the blockchain, the developers, so to speak, and then other people that understand how businesses work, how finance works, how marketing works, etc. So yeah, it's quite a strong team, and it looks good. I think a final word on the team, really, I think they can implement. I have no question over that. I think this is obviously looking at the richness of the material, the presentation. This is a bit of labour of love, I think, for our co-founders, and I think that shines through in the presentation and in the project itself. And so I have no hesitations or no doubts over whether they can implement. The partners that are on their website are the European Crowdfunding Network, DRIE or DRIE. I don't know who they are. Let's have a little look. There we are. So they are a web service platform. Okay. So you can build, deploy, and scale web applications on there. Okay, that's interesting. We have the Gibraltar Legal Advisors, as I mentioned earlier on in the review. They are based in Gibraltar. That's quite good from a legal standpoint. You want to see that. Switzerland, Estonia, there are other places that ICOs normally register, and the reason for that is the regulations and obviously the ease of doing business there, especially if it's an ICO. They're partnered with Bancor as well. Again, that will ensure token liquidity. Electate, I'm not sure who they are. Let's have a very brief look. Okay, it just goes back to their main site. And Identity Mine Global will probably be responsible for performing their KYC. Yes, they build trusted digital identity. So there we are, that's the partnerships. Communities now, and they're active on Facebook, Medium, Bitcoin Talk Forum, Twitter. They have a GitHub repository, and on Telegram and YouTube as well. Now, as you know, I like to gauge how many followers they've got and how interactive they are on each of these platforms, mainly focusing on Twitter and Telegram, and also what they've got on GitHub. They have 7,149 followers on Twitter. They post quite regularly as well. There are a lot of people mention them, so they're obviously being watched by a lot of people in the crypto space, so that's interesting. People saying they bought into their ICO, pre-sale, etc., etc. On Telegram, they have 2,763 members. They are active on there as well, and on GitHub, they only have the two commits. And basically it's just the documentation. There's no smart contract in there as far as I could find anyway. If somebody knows different, please post in the comments below. Now for that time you've been waiting for, or you've just skipped to, it is the verdict, and here are my positives from this project. So let's have a quick look through them. One, I can see that they've identified a target market, which is very good. You've not just had an idea and then you're just going to try and sell it to anybody. They've identified that developing economies are where they can really make an impact, and as they are shut out by the major crowdfunding websites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they know that they can get some traction in those countries. Number two, this will be a lucrative business if they can implement. I think crowdfunding is obviously quite a lucrative business for Indiegogo and Kickstarter, as well as maybe some of the other smaller platforms that I'm not aware of. So yeah, there's money to be made here, and if you're giving the service for free, I can't see why you wouldn't attract people away from the bigger competition. Number three, the team is competent. Looking at I looked through the team earlier during the day, and as well as having people in all different they've covered all the bases. It looks like they are all competent in their various fields. So I've no problem saying that the team can implement what they say they're going to do. Number 4, they have a large pre-sale discount. If you're going to invest in this ICO, the pre-sale is 50% cheaper than the main sale, so it would be in your interest to invest early rather than later. Number 5, they do actually solve real problems within crowdfunding at the moment. I discussed them in the second and third chapters of this review. There are inherent problems with the crowdfunding platforms at the moment. And again, the main one is probably that there's no access for developing countries. Certain countries are excluded, and obviously there is a lot of protectionism going on within them as well. So this will hopefully solve that. Another thing I noted was the presentation material is excellent on this ICO. There's a lot of attention to detail. They have a one-pager, they have a white paper, they also have a technical paper. The only thing that I could point out was there wasn't much information about the actual blockchain technology within the presentation material. But as it stands, it's been very well presented. The website's nice. It's all clean and easy to read. Number 7, they have some innovative ideas as far as the tokenomics are concerned and the ecosystem. It'll be interesting to see whether they can implement. And number 8, it's quite apparent from the co-founder. He's obviously had a lot of experience in banking and financial services. This is a very fiscally aware ICO, in a fiscally aware project. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of attention to how they're going to continue to be viable, how they're going to raise money, how they're going to raise revenue. And it's evident in the white paper that they know what they're talking about in this regard. Number 9, they will have an affiliate reward system, meaning that you can actually earn for referring people onto the platform. And number 10, probably the biggest selling point of it, it's free to use. So there are large incentives for people to jump ship from other platforms onto the Acorn Collective platform, the Acorn Hub, or whatever they're going to call it. You know, because it's free, everybody likes free, and people will look at this seriously before deciding to which crowdfunding platform they're going to use. As ever, there are negatives. This ICO, no exception. None are, guys. You know, every ICO I review has certain negative aspects about it. The first thing I noticed there was a negative here was the high token price. Now, even at 70 cents, that is quite steep for me. It represents still quite a high token price, even for a total supply of 90 million. Number 2, the high hard cap. A hard cap of 65 million tokens works out, you know, possibly upwards of 50 million is their hard cap in US dollars. And they say they're going to, you know, if they keep raising revenue, they're going to continue on to 100 million. I think that's too large for a project of this size and ambition. Number 3, this concerns me, and it should concern other investors as well, and you have to be aware of it if you're going to go and invest in this ICO. They may have another ICO later on. If the first one isn't successful, they will have another, so they won't have a token burn, which is of concern to investors. We like to see a reducing supply. They won't go over their 90 million total supply of tokens, but they may have another ICO if they don't sell out this time round, and that is, to me, that's a bit concerning, considering if they do that, it might affect the value of your tokens if you're holding on to them from the initial pre-sale or ICO. Number 4, again, always a concern for me when investing in projects. They don't have a working product yet or an MVP. They are developing it at the moment, as I pointed out in another chapter, but they don't have one at the moment, and obviously we'd like to see that. It should be coming quite soon, though. The roadmap isn't too long, so I'm not overly concerned. Looking at the presentation and the team and everything behind the product, I think the MVP will be coming sooner rather than later, so this gives you a chance to get on board before it's actually launched. Good news will hopefully bring some value to your investment. And another thing I noticed was there's no hype behind this one, and it's strange for me because it's quite an exciting project. I like it. Looking through all the material, I enjoyed doing this review, but there isn't much hype in the community or on the website. A few people are backing this on Twitter, I noticed, which is where I heard about it first of all. So it was on my radar for a while, and you know, it surprises me that more people aren't interested in this. So with all that taken into account, what is my final verdict on this ICO? Well, I think from little acorns, large oak trees grow, and I think you've got to give this one a chance, to be honest with you. I think it's a good idea. It's wonderfully presented. As I said, they're fiscally aware, which is very important for me in this ICO. I'm willing to overlook certain negatives, high token price for one, and also the fact they don't have a minimal viable product, simply because I know they understand the economics and I know they're fiscally responsible. So for me, that matters quite a great deal. So I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It has been hindered from a lack of an MVP or working product, and also hindered due to the high token price and a high hard cap, and the potential that they're going to have another ICO. Let's hope it sells out and that's not necessary, so everybody knows where they stand. My final verdict on this is I might take a risk on this ICO because I quite like the project in general. I think it looks like a very interesting project. This will be one for the long term. I won't try and flip this. I don't see any point in trying to flip this ICO. I don't think that will provide me with the biggest returns. I think a longer term approach, a longer term investment is required for this to see fruition, much like an acorn taking a long time to grow into a big oak tree. So I shall be investing in this ICO, I believe. So yep, that's it for me today. I've waffled on long enough. I'm quite tired. This has taken me a long time to get this review done today. Things have been going on. I took part in the Legolas ICO a little bit earlier, and also in B Token ICO, and also in WePower, even though my allocation was minute in both of those ones. So hope you enjoyed this. If you've got any comments about Acorn Collective, please post them below. I'd like to hear from you guys. I try to respond to everybody as much as I can. And please give me a like. Please subscribe if you like the content and you want to know my latest videos. Please click on the little bell icon. As usual, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If you are going to invest in ICOs, please be aware they do pose inherent risk. And always invest what you can afford to lose. Invest wisely and invest cautiously. Always do your own due diligence and your own research on these things. Don't take my word for it. This is just my opinion, and it's only to be used for entertainment purposes. Oh, thank God for that. That's I'm out of breath. So thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with another review.